Hello, Southern California, and welcome to this week's edition of Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, based right here in Southern California, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We have a great show for you today. If you have ever asked yourself the question or wondered, where is my income going to come from in retirement, you're not going to want to miss today's show. Tom, my friend, it's always a joy to be with you.
Great to be with you, and my favorite subject absolutely is income.
It's all about income. You say this all the time, that success in retirement is not so much having to do with your lump sum. It's about being able to take that lump sum and turn it into a sustainable, ongoing stream of income for yourself that's going to last you for the rest of your life. And so we're going to talk about all things income today.
Absolutely. The number one problem that people have, the number one fear people have if they're 57 years of age or older, according to a survey that was done about 9 years ago and has been repeated, is running out of money in your lifetime, running out of income, not having enough money to go to the grocery store. One lady told me that's been with me for years recently, when she left her annual review and she turned around, we were walking down the hallway and she turned around and she pointed her finger at me, and I thought, wow, I'm in trouble. And she said, you know, I'm 72. I started working with you when I was 64. And she said, the thing I like about working with you is you're just as concerned that I'm able to go to Europe when I'm in my 60s. And I've done that. But now I know I'm going to be able to go to the grocery store when I'm 85 years of age. So that's the big difference.
Gosh, it just provides such a peace of mind when you don't have to question and wonder and worry. And I think, you know, there's so many stats out there that most people don't even have a retirement income plan. There's a lot of stress that then comes unnecessarily, and by having a written plan in place and knowing where that's going to come from, that just frees you up to really be able to enjoy your retired years.
Well, absolutely. The people who don't have a plan don't know what you can spend. And we've said on a previous show, you have a tendency, if you don't have a plan, to overspend. Or you have a tendency, on the other hand, depending on your nature, to underspend. And if you underspend in your 60 years time period when you're in retirement, or maybe you don't retire until you're 70, but you're still healthy, and that becomes your go-go years in retirement. If you're underspending during those years and you're not enjoying it, what good does it do you to have a ton of money when you're in your 80s and look back and say, wow, we could have spent more money when we were in our 60s or in our 70s, when we were able to go? Because you go through the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years in retirement, and all the money in the world doesn't help you in the no-go years so much as being able to enjoy what you've worked hard for. And the key to it is having that foundational income plan, to know that your money is going to come in on a regular basis and you're not going to have to eat dirt. You're going to be able to survive. Great story. This was 10 years ago or so now. A lady came in from one of our seminars that we had at the time, and she dropped all of the things that we asked her to bring on the desk, and she started crying. And her first name was Gladys, and I said, Gladys, are you okay? I thought she might have injured herself or hurt herself coming in. And she said, I'm okay. She said, I just did the budget last night. First time I've ever done a budget. I knew I was short, but I am $400 a month short every single month. And that's all I've got. And so I said, that's okay. That's why you're here. And I started looking through her documents. And when I got to her Social Security document, I said, Gladys, how long have you been taking this $1,400 a month for Social Security? And she said, I'm not. I said, what? She said, I'm not taking Social because I went to a Social Security maximization workshop and they told me never to take Social until you're 70. Well, I'll grant you that if you do the math, you will maximize your Social Security if you can wait until you're 70 to take it. But here's the issue. Here's the issue. What if you starve to death because you're $400 a month short and you can't afford groceries from the time you're 64, like this lady was, for 6 years until she turned 70? So you know, we're already into the thing we want to talk about in this first segment, and that is one of the biggest things of income in an American's income for retirement. 40% of the average American gets their income from Social Security. So doing it right and timing it right is very, very important.
And I love that you talk about that it's not about maximizing Social Security, because to your point, if you wait until age 70, that's the maximum amount that you can claim from Social Security. The amount of the check doesn't rise after age 70. But you talk about the importance of optimizing your Social Security. Talk about that difference, because words matter when it comes to developing the right Social Security claiming strategy.
And when words matter, I go to the dictionary and look it up. I looked up optimize, and optimize means to make the best use of a resource, not just the biggest use of a resource. So you've got to ask yourself a question. Let's dive into Social Security. When am I going to turn it on? If that's 40%, maybe 50% for you, may only be 30%, but it's a big percent. And when are you going to turn it on in retirement? Are you going to turn it on immediately when you're 62? I've had people come into the office and say, you know, you better go get it at 62. You never know how long they're going to pay it. But there's some strings attached if you get it at 62.
Yeah.
Are you still working? If you're still working, you can only make around $23,000 a year. Or for every $2 over that, you pay back $1 of Social Security. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's called the givebacks, right?
It's called the givebacks.
What the government giveth, the government loveth to taketh away, I always say.
Blessed be the name of the government. Right, that's the way it works sometimes. So if you take it early, you've got to be careful. Am I working? Or if you get laid off, and I've had people get laid off. 29 years, I've seen so many things. People get laid off and they're 63 years old. And one guy I'm thinking of right now particularly, and he came in and he said, I need to turn on Social Security until I get a job. Well, if he turned on Social Security at 63 years of age, he's going to get a very low payout at that point. He's going to turn it on taking less than his full retirement age payout. And if he goes back to work and he gets a good job, he's going to have to pay it all back. So what good does it do to you as a resource? Now, when you get to full retirement age, which is 66 or 67 or somewhere in between, you don't have to do any payback, but that may be when you need to take it. Or do I wait till I'm 70 and truly maximize it? Well, that depends for you on your particular situation.
Yeah, and it really is such an individualized, personalized thing. It's so important to make sure you understand the ins and outs so that you can optimize it for yourself. So if someone's watching today and they're going, I need to start from scratch. I need to build my retirement income plan. Obviously, Social Security is a huge piece of that. What would you say to someone about starting this process?
Well, you need to get some advice, and very clearly, in one of my in-person seminars in Irvine about 4 months ago, I had a lady she came up after the Social Security presentation and she said, I work for the Social Security Department. And she said, we are told not to give advice. We're told to pass out information. If you ask for something, we will give you that information, but we will not lead you or tell you any advice because they don't want to be responsible for us giving you advice. And there's all kinds of questions. It's not just you as an individual. If you're married,
yes.
How do I take it with my spouse? One thing we use sometimes is we're able to turn on the lower Social Security, because the higher Social Security of the two that are in the marriage, the higher Social Security is the breadwinner. Let it continue to grow. That could be a good strategy for you. Those are things that are really important. How is your Social Security going to impact your taxes? Will Social Security drive your taxes higher to the point where maybe you pay more tax to get Medicare Part B and Part D? So what we do is we run what's called a Social Security report. It's a foundational part of the retirement blueprint that we offer for everyone who calls in and claims it, who watches this show or listens to our radio show or comes to our seminars, and we will start building a complete retirement blueprint. Well, foundational to that is a Social Security report that takes everything you've got into consideration and makes a very good recommendation or gives you options as to when the best time it is for you to take your Social Security. You've got a different Social Security number than anyone anyone else. You've also got a different time when you should turn on your Social Security.
Tom, thank you. And again, if you call the Social Security Administration, they can give you information, but they are not allowed to give you this kind of personalized advice that's in your best interest to figure out the optimal time for you to start your Social Security. So again, to claim your complimentary retirement blueprint, it's really simple. All you need to do is call that number on the bottom of your screen, 866-709-1462. Or if you'd rather not talk to someone right now, but you do have your smartphone handy, if you simply pull it out, you can open up that camera app, point, click, and scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Moseley Wealth Management will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary visit that way as well. When we come back, what do you do if you have a pension? How does rental income come into play for your retirement? Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
I had been in the ministry and training for the ministry for about 25 years. It seemed every church I would go to, they would put me in charge of benevolence. And benevolence is when people come to the church and they need money. And they were trying to decide to buy food or buy medicine. And the medicine was some new medicine that was effective, so the drug companies might charge a tremendous amount. And we at the church couldn't afford to help them do that. It was difficult. So when I passed my license on June the 8th of 1995, I was sitting down with my two managers in downtown Pasadena, and these guys, they said, "Who do you want to work with?" And I said, well, what motivated me to get my license was I want to work with retirees. They said, why not doctors or lawyers? And I said from the very beginning, I want to work with people to make sure they never run out of money, because I had seen it.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're watching Right on the Money with Tom Moseley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We are addressing today the question of where will your income come from in retirement? And Tom, we talked all in the first segment a lot about Social Security, the importance of optimizing that versus maximizing it in a lot of cases. But now we need to talk about a couple other income streams that affect a lot of folks here in Southern California. Of course, pensions. A lot of folks don't have those anymore, but some folks do, and with that comes a whole host of questions and conversations that need to be had to develop your retirement income strategy, including that pension income.
Pensions? Where's my pension?
Right?
Yeah. You know, just 4 or 5 decades ago, half the people, more than half the people in the United States were covered either by themselves or their spouse with a pension. Mm-hmm. And then along came this great idea of starting that's a defined benefit plan, but starting the defined contribution plan of 401ks and IRAs and 403bs, and guess who's making most of the contribution now? And so we've now migrated from over half of the people being covered by a pension to now only 1 in 6 people are covered by pensions. Mm-hmm. But to address those of you who say, well, I'm still hanging on, I've got a pension. I work for the government in some form or a union in some form. Well, you just got a great company that still has a pension. There's some questions you need to ask yourself when it comes to retirement. When do I need to turn it on? I mean, do I turn it on immediately when I leave the workplace? The second question, and this is looking and planning, we're not just talking about the amount of money you're going to get the first year when you retire. Mm-hmm. We're talking about cola, and I don't mean Diet Cola or Coca-Cola. Right. What I'm talking about here is cost of living adjustment. You've got to ask yourself a question and find out if you're going to take a 20 to a 25 to a 30-year retirement, does my pension have a cost of living adjustment? And how much is it? Now, many of the public pensions have a 2% maximum cost of living. So, you know, we've run into in the last 3 years a total of 17% increase in the cost of living.
In inflation, right?
Right.
So it's not even keeping up with that.
You're absolutely right. You're losing purchasing power if your pension doesn't have a healthy cost of living adjustment or doesn't have a cost of living adjustment at all. So remember, you just need to know. You can't go change it. You can't but you need to make other arrangements to take care share of inflation if your pension doesn't have a cost of living? And I've written down some other things here. Will it cover my spouse?
Yes, that's an important decision to make.
And I plead with you. If you're retiring and you have a pension, just a lot of things if you're retiring, don't go make a lot of decisions like maybe this is the first time you've ever retired, okay? Because it probably is. And then not get the advice of somebody like the people here at my firm who've helped thousands of people retire, to make sure that you're asking the right questions, you're taking the right things with you. And when it comes to a pension, you're making the right decision as to how it's being paid out. So are you going to add your spouse? Now, what happens is you look at that big number up here and you say, wow, we can get that much money, Myrtle, if we just turn it on just my life, and a much lower number if it includes you. And so sometimes you say, well, let's take a chance. Don't take a chance. I mean, get some advice. Maybe there's enough difference. It's called a pension maximization idea,
right.
And I've done this with some clients where we were able to buy a term life insurance policy, cheapest life insurance you can buy for 20 years, even at your age. We can buy it on the breadwinner up here. Go ahead and take this person that's got the high pension, buy that term life insurance policy with about half of the difference. Go ahead and take the higher amount for both to enjoy. And then if the one who has the pension passes away and leaves the spouse, they're left without the pension, but they're left, in this case that I'm thinking of, with a $500,000 life insurance policy that's tax-free, unlike the pension. That's called pension maximization. You say, what? Yeah, right. It's a little bit complicated. That's why you don't need to be a novice trying to do these things and make these decisions. So the way you take it, one life or two life. And here's another thing. Do you get a lump sum option? Because a lot of times with a lump sum option, what you lose when you take the pension on their terms is you lose control. A lot of times you can take that lump sum and you say, well, we don't really need with my social, my spouse's social, or if you're single, with my social, and then we don't really need all of that. I don't really need all of that pension. So maybe you take the lump sum option and you put the part you need into an income producing vehicle, and you use the rest of it just for cash, just for spending, just for putting in an IRA so that you can take it out and go on trips and you can enjoy the things you want to enjoy. So there's all kinds of things. That's your plan versus just following the pension plan. So do you have a pension? If so, what do we do and how do we handle it? Very important things.
For sure. And one thing I would love to add about the pension, because I recently heard a horror story that really made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. If you do have a pension and you have selected that you want it to be able to go pass on to beneficiaries when you pass away, make sure those beneficiaries are up to date. This recent horror story, this man had, forgotten to update. He had left it to other family members before he even met his wife. And so when he passed away, guess what? The wife didn't get any of it. It still went to whoever was listed as the beneficiary. So very important to have that up to date.
That kind of case has been all the way to the Supreme Court multiple times. So much so that the Supreme Court won't even accept that case anymore. And they have established that the beneficiary document trumps a trust.
A will, yeah.
It trusts a will. It trumps everything. A marriage document. It trumps everything else. It's supreme. Whatever's on that beneficiary document, you would be absolutely shocked to see how many times people come in and they've left it to a brother because their kids were young. Whoops. That was 30 years ago, and now my kids are in their 30s, almost 40s, and they need to change the beneficiary because the brother's already passed away.
Yep, so very important to make sure that's up to date. Well, let's transition now and talk a little bit more about rental income, because this is something that definitely affects folks in Southern California. So talk about that. Rental
income can be great, and I'll just touch on it briefly. I have rental property myself. My father left me rental property. It's a great thing to be left because all of them were paid for. It's like an appreciating asset that pays you a dividend. So if you've got rental property, don't just listen to a broker or a financial advisor who'll say, well, you need to sell that. You may need to sell it. I always say you need to sell it when you're pulling your hair out over it. You know, when people are destroying it,
Right.
when the area it's in is being run down. But generally, a rental property is a good thing if you already have it. I've also seen people make the mistake of taking a lot of their retirement money and investing in rental property, and it's like starting a new business. So if you need income, you know, you really need to talk about it, and you need to evaluate it too. I'm meeting with a gentleman in our Glendale office who has over $10 million worth of rental property. Sounds great. But he's done the math and he's paying out over $1.5 million in remaining mortgages and taxes and insurance and upkeep. And he said, it's really beginning to be a bother in my old age. So you got to ask yourself a question. Is it worth it? Not so much from a dollar standpoint, but is it worth it from just the wear and tear on you emotionally sometimes to have rental property, whether you're using a property management company or not? It's really important. You got questions on these things, pensions, rentals, Social Security, you need to call us. You need to come in. You need to sit down and talk to one of our 6 advisors in one of our 5 offices. We're in Glendale, Arcadia, Ontario. Our main office is in Anaheim, and then we're down in Scripps Ranch. We'll sit down with you. We'll start with a blank sheet of paper, and we'll say, where's your income coming from? And we'll help you make some decisions and put together a plan.
Tom, thank you. And the best part about this is you can claim your complimentary retirement blueprint completely free. There is no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how Tom and the team of Moseley Wealth Management can help and serve you. That number to call to claim yours is 866-709-1462, or again, you're welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. More on Right on the Money right after this.
Welcome to this Right on the Money moment with Tom Moseley. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and Tom, I have a very important question for you. What is happening on the horizon with Social Security? So many questions surrounding Social Security right now.
So many people are calling it now social insecurity because they've been telling us for about 10, 12, 15 years that in 2033, it used to be like an eon away, they've been telling us that they're going to have to lower the payouts on Social Security to about 77 to 79%. Well, it was a little bit of a shock treatment about 4 months ago or so when a big article came out in a national publication and said that's going to cost the average American person $8,000 to $17,000 per year. So a married couple would be $16,000 to $34,000. So here's what I would say about Social Security. You can't control Social Security. You can't control Congress. You can't even vote the people in that you want to do what you want them to do. But what you can do is you can build a contingent plan that if I do lose $16,000 to $34,000 in my Social Security payout, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to make up that difference? What happens in the world, you can't control, but what happens in your world, you need to be making preparation with your financial planner, making sure that you are addressing that potentiality that you could lose a big chunk of your Social Security. And the question is not, will it happen or could it happen? But if it happens, what are you going to do about it?
People have to be prepared, Tom, and you're offering such sage guidance right now. You truly are.
You have to.
Thank you for watching Right on the Money Moment. My name is Cynthia DeFazio with Tom Moseley of Moseley Wealth Management.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Moseley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We are talking today about where will your retirement income come from? And we've touched on so many different aspects today. One of the things that you mentioned earlier in the show is that so many folks no longer have a pension from their company, their place of employment. But there is a way for folks to create your very own personal pension, your private pension. Talk about that, Tom, and that strategy that you're able to employ for folks.
Absolutely. If you don't have a pension and I'll tell you the people that this appeals to. It appeals to those people who want to take as much risk out of their financial plan in retirement as possible. And so what you can do is basically, you want to call it this, you can buy your income. You can take a certain amount of money And this needs to be calculated depending on your budget, what you need, the other sources that you've got coming in. It can be calculated, and you can buy your own pension, and you can set yourself up with a personal private pension, and that's called an annuity. And I know they get a lot of bad press. I don't even want to address that right now. I will say this. I had a person in my office 2 weeks ago, and they came in to talk about annuities. Can you believe that in this day and time? Mm-hmm. And I asked him, I said, why are you interested in an annuity and concerned about an annuity? And both of them said, because both of our mothers have them and they love them. Because see, when you're 40 years old, you don't need that variable annuity that your broker's going to sell you because he needs to make a large commission. When you're 50 years old, you need a job during those times. But when you're in retirement, you need income. And you can get it from Social Security. If that's enough for you, fine. If you've got a pension, that's great. That's fine. If you've got rentals that we've talked about earlier on the show. But if you don't have any of those things and you've got a gap between Social Security and what you need for income, the only way to take the risk out of it is to put your assets into a principal protected annuity called a fixed indexed annuity. A specific kind. There's some annuities I don't like, and I would never use, and I would never recommend. But if you're needing an income in retirement, you need a vehicle, you need to check out a fixed indexed annuity. Here's what it is: principal protected. All right? You get part of the market gain tied to an index, but you don't get all of it. So that when the market goes down, you don't lose any of it. It stays at zero. Some of those have fees. Some of them don't have any fees, unlike the variable annuities, but some of them have fees of maybe 1% or 1.2% rather than the 4 or 5% that's in some of the annuities that people hate. And it will pay you a guaranteed stream of income for life. And you can set it up so that that income stream is increasing each year and grows as the market grows. And you can also set it up as so that it will pay out as long as your spouse survives you. And here's the kicker, and this is why you really need to investigate these. Even after you run out of your money, you still get an income flow from these things. That's the insurance aspect. That's why they're all owned and provided by insurance companies, because they're willing to pass the risk off to themselves for your longevity. Otherwise, your 401k gets to zero, yo-yo. You're on your own.
Yeah.
Because you are just really on a fixed income. So you need an income plan. You need to maximize, optimize your Social Security. If you've got a pension, you need to do it right. If you've got rentals, you need to make sure they're working for you, not against you. And you might need an income annuity to fill in the gap.
And Tom, this is what you specialize in doing. I know you love doing it. You do this day in and day out all across Southern California. I'm excited for more folks to connect with you and be able to receive their very own written income plan as well. Well, thank you. And for you watching, we are here for you. You don't have to go this alone. This might be new to you. The good news is it's not new to the team of Mosley Wealth Management. That number to call to receive their help, 866-709-1462. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We look forward to being back with you next week.